see, and then if we did our cards right, I think we are good. Krista Goodrich.
Hi.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
This may be one of the first times, like, I had never met you.
No.
And you were assigned to me from a referral from Ormond.
Yep.
And what a blessing that was. And then I said, I got a show. You want him on the show?
Yep.
And you said, yeah.
I love podcasts.
So,
I was excited.
Krista, I have like one of my top requests are women in the workforce that are moms that are doing it.
Right.
And I have a lot of my friends that I've grown up with that are a lot of women. They're like, you need to get more women on, like women power. And it's true what you guys are doing and accomplishing. I think it's amazing.
Thank you.
So for those that are listening, Krista, wonderful business owner out of Ormond Beach. You got your hands in a little bit of everything.
Yes.
So we want to take it from the top with the paint thing too.
Sure.
So go ahead.
So basically what I started doing 10 years ago was I founded one of the paint and sips. It's called Masterpiece Mixers. And we had one locally here in Ormond Beach. And then I actually started those in Georgia and franchised out to 17 franchised units. Wow. So that grew and took off and awesome. And then I really wanted to move to the beach. So we eventually got to move down here. We're actually in Daytona.
Okay.
So we moved to Daytona, and the plan was to run our investment properties because I do a lot of real estate investing in the area as well. So I was going to just do real estate investing and still have my studios in Georgia because I kept 3 of them. Turns out I really like starting businesses. So that wasn't enough. And I ran across a very good deal on a building on Main Street, which, as we all know, if you're in the area, Main Street is not very positively looked at. But it was a really good deal. So I bought the building with my partner, Tom Caffrey. And we bought the building and did not know what we were going to do with it. We just knew it was a good deal. We ought to just buy it. And
when did you acquire it?
August of last year.
Okay.
And we knew that because of Bike Week and Biketoberfest, we could always rent it out and at least cover our cost. Even if we didn't make money, we could at least cover the cost of the mortgage and pay it off over however many years. So I bought the building. And then somehow the idea of the pedal bike pub crawler came along. And we were able to start working with the city of Daytona, and they're very excited about it. They have been working with us in a very positive way to get the bike on the road. So we had a bike fabricated for us. It took us 6 months. We brought it to Daytona. We parked the bike there, and it does bar crawls basically around town. So we can go visit all the local beer establishments or restaurants and bring our tourists to see our city because a lot of them don't know anything besides that main A1A area. So we bring them to lots of local places that they might not know about. So we started that. And then because we were going to be parking the bike at the building and we're into renovating and into art, I couldn't really have an ugly building. So we renovated the entire building. It's beautiful. Everyone that walks down Main Street is like, whoa, this doesn't even belong on Main Street. It's so nice.
Now this is the Pallet.
This is the Pallet Pub.
Okay.
Yep. And so at the Pallet Pub, we decided just to make it a pretty building. We also wanted to be able to give our hopsicle riders, which is the beer bike, we wanted to get them the opportunity to have a drink with us. Right. So we got our beer and wine license there. And then since we were going to be there and I know how to do art and the pallets are a really big thing right now, we started offering the pallet classes, which we've had quite a few of those over the last few weeks since we opened. And then in all of this, my dad came down to visit me. And my dad over the last year, well, he had 6 heart attacks leading up to last summer. Jeez. And at the end of last summer, he finally was basically able to die. We went to the hospital to say goodbye to my dad, and he ended up surviving and got his shit together after that. And he started riding an electric bicycle 10 miles a day. He stopped smoking and he started eating healthy, and he barely ever drinks anymore. My dad was over 300 pounds when all this started. Oh, wow. So point of the story is he came to visit while all this construction was going on. And because he rides an electric bicycle 10 miles a day, he called around to rent one, and everyone was sold out. Right. So he said, hey, since you have a building and you're doing something with the big hopsicle, let's start renting out electric bicycles. So E-Cycle Daytona was born, and we rent out electric bicycles pretty much every day. Right. We also offer pub crawl tours with the electric bicycles. And like this Saturday, we're doing the beach bar crawl from the Ocean Decks event. And we're bringing the big bike and all the electric bikes, and they're all rented out. All seats are filled to do the pub crawl. So it's been really, really good. We're quite ahead of schedule on our sales, which, again, being Main Street Daytona, we weren't really sure how that was going to go, but it's gone very well for us so far.
On a tangent with the Main Street, growing here my whole life, is Main Street really has a bad rap? I didn't really. Yeah. From a business perspective?
Yes. So I'm a member of the Junior League of Daytona. Okay. And last night we were at dinner, and this is just an example. And everyone was talking about what they do. And one lady looked at me and she said, "What do you do?" And the girl next to me laughed and said, "You should ask her what she doesn't do. It'll be shorter." And so I told her about all the businesses, and she looked at me and said, "That's really cool. Where is it?" And I said, "Main Street, Daytona." And she said, "Oh, I don't go to that area. I stay away from there."
Wow.
And not to throw anyone under the bus, but my response to her was, I said, "Do you want us to have a better Main Street of Daytona?"
Right.
And because we've gotten rid of the homeless situation there quite a bit, but it still has a bad rap. And it's not necessarily a bad rap, but more like you have to be a biker to be on that street.
Right.
So when I asked her, I said, "Would you like to see a more bustling Main Street with activities for families going on?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "Well, then you should come visit my bar, because it's actually got family activities coming out of there with the different bike tours. Even the big bike, you can do a family tour to all the kid-centric places like the Chocolate Factory and the Taffy Shop and Daytona Lagoon." And I said, "But that mentality of we don't want to go to Main Street, if we keep that mentality, it'll never get better. So we've got to get the locals back onto Main Street."
Well, this is interesting because I didn't, obviously the premise of the show is there's no premise.
Yeah.
And the Daytona thing has been coming up more in dialogue with, I had the Wilson on the other day, and he's really Ormond based and Daytona based. And I guess growing up here, Daytona always had that dirt Tona rap for sure.
Yep.
It never really affected me negatively because I used Daytona didn't use me. So like when I was your daughter's age, and so I loved it. I had a bike.
Right.
I went down there, my homecomings, my proms, everything it was in Daytona, and you're shopping. So I never really had this this bad feeling. I don't know. So it's interesting from a business perspective. I like you're kind of like a pioneer right now.
Trying to be,
trying to change it up a bit. And I mean, it's funny because a naive person may still have this disgruntled opinion of these bikers or this or that. And it's funny once you actually realize that the average bike is $30,000-$40,000 and they're lawyers and doctors and they spend money and they're not, they're not just grungy, whatever the opinion is of like a biker.
Right.
Daytona's kind of got that rap because but I'm hoping, I haven't gotten to ask a lot of the business owners from this last season because we're like in it, and you know it better than I do. But a lot of my friends that are restaurant owners and stuff, I'm curious to see what this year did.
Yep.
The hurricanes obviously put a really big damper on like really putting an understanding like how did you do and how didn't you do in the last couple of years. But I feel like it did good. Like, how do you feel about this last year's bike week? Did you see? Well, I know you were just opening up.
Right. We were just opening up. And also I've owned property in Daytona for the last 5 years, and I have been around for a lot of the events, but this was my first full bike week.
Okay.
So I, of course, was overwhelmed. I thought it was amazing. It was the coolest thing. I wore cool, crazy biker outfits, even though I'm not really a biker. I think it's a great event. I think we should keep it. I know some people talk about it not staying. I definitely think we should keep it. I heard and read that hotel bookings were down and the restaurants and stuff felt like they were down. But then I've heard some people say they did great.
Right.
I do think that some of the effect was that now you have Bike Week in Ormond. A lot of stuff is up off by the Iron Horse, and you've got a lot of stuff going on in DeLand and even New Smyrna.
Right.
So I think it just spreads out a little more. But I also have heard that there are a lot more families coming down to visit because Daytona is starting to clean up.
Right.
Just last week was Georgia spring breaks. I just happen to be familiar with those. And we had friends and families in from all over Georgia that were really, really excited to see that Daytona is starting to turn around and is starting to look clean and a very welcoming place to families.
Right.
So, but I do think we need to be a little more innovative in Daytona. Like, we don't have any breweries where Ormond has breweries.
Right.
We don't have a lot of coffee shops. We don't have a lot of the trendier things that your more up and coming cities are having.
Right.
So I think the city's going to need to be more open to offering those types of activities.
Are they reluctant now if you were to apply for that type of business genre?
Somewhat. So over the last 2 years, they've started to really open up and be more open to new ideas.
Right.
We got one new commissioner on the beach side, and I was a little nervous about her because I was worried that she was bought and paid for and all that. And she's turned out to be amazing for the beach side. So that's really helping to open some doors for all the businesses.
Do you stay heavily involved, or more so than your average Joe in the political ecosystem?
I do.
Just to know what's going on?
Yeah, well, because I'm a big proponent of Airbnb, and that's a hot issue. So
you're pro Airbnb.
I am pro Airbnb
too.
Yeah, I get that people are worried about parties next door. I understand that. I'm a homeowner too, and I have an Airbnb next door to me. So I understand the concerns, but
Right.
a well-regulated short-term rental environment, I think for this entire area would really, really bring a boost to the economy. For example, the families. My sister wanted to come to Daytona over this last spring break, but she had to go to Orlando because there were no
Oh,
single
wow.
family homes that could house her and her 6 children under the age of 13. She also is not going to put her kids in separate hotel rooms.
Right.
So I think by having those housing opportunities, you can have families get together, do fun activities that, just every nice beach that you go to has vacation rentals.
Right.
So for Daytona to really embrace the new generation of millennials and to bring families back, I just think it's got to happen, but with regulation.
I'm with you. It's one of those weird things that I haven't ran into anybody in the streets that's against Airbnb,
Right.
but yet it's opposed.
It's opposed.
So you always wonder, like, who are these people that are opposing it? I guess it's the
Hotel industry.
yeah. Really, because
Yeah.
same thing. I am an Airbnb fanatic. Like my wife and I, our reservations of where we've been is phenomenal, and
Yep.
our history and the rating system, we love it, and we love even when we go international. Like we have no problem.
Yep.
There's a few things you got to keep in mind. Reviews are huge,
Mhm.
and then the dialogue back and forth with the actual property owner. But I mean, what a phenomenal, it's one of those businesses where you're like, why didn't I think of that? Kind of
And
thing.
actually, one of the 3 founders graduated from my high school.
Did he
Joe
really?
Gebbia. Mhm.
Wow.
Yep.
It's a
So
phenomenal concept.
it is. It is.
It's C2C, customer to customer.
Yep.
It's a very unique new way of business because of the digital era. It's like, I explain it to the older generation of like, it's the Uber for houses.
Yes.
And I find it to be, I had one bad experience. It wasn't even that bad. But we did an Orlando trip. Once in a while, I take my family away and we'll go somewhere like close, but not too far. And Orlando was the choice for this. So I think I had a soccer tournament. But the only thing was Orlando's such a high touristy saturated area that it wasn't a comfy Airbnb as it like made it sound like it was. And the
Right.
furniture was breaking and this. But it kind of came with, we knew what we were kind of getting into with the reviews. But still, with the rating system, it's like these people can't jeopardize.
Yeah, you have to
have to
offer
stand
what you
up
say
for
you're
it.
offering. Yeah.
But I love it, and I'm all about it. Now, granted, though, I know that there's always a other side of the argument, and I get it if the house next door to me was an Airbnb and you had a lot of riffraff, but I don't think it's anything that can't be worked out with if you were the owner and I said, hey, look, man, you're having a lot of schmucks come in, we got to do something about it, etc. But
Yep.
It's interesting, and I'm all about it, and I think it's really excited. So I'm still like learning about you through this because, like I said, I really mean this sincerely. I really appreciate you letting me work with you, and that everyone's there is an interneter now.
Yeah.
So you could have picked anybody, and I appreciate you letting me work with you and all the ideas that you have and concepts. So Tom, he's everywhere in Ormond.
He's everywhere.
God bless this guy.
Everyone asks me, they're like, does he sleep? And I'm like, I don't think so. Yeah. So
he has been a huge asset to me for getting my name out there in the Ormond scene in a good way. And I had no idea you guys were originally involved,
Yep.
which was fine because I serviced you whether
yeah.
But it was as I started seeing him tagged on emails. I'm like, wait a minute here.
Right.
And then once you guys started doing your marketing, I thought, well, hell yeah, like you guys are in it. So this is fantastic. So he's involved with the Pallet Bar, Hopsicles, and E-Cycle.
Yes. So how that came about was when I started investing in Daytona, I was an out-of-state investor, and I was introduced to him through a mutual friend, and he became my realtor down here, and he was my eyes and ears for everything. And he's great. I mean, we had one incident at our Airbnb where they said it was 10 people and they were all over 25, and turns out it wasn't. So he went immediately over and took care of it for me, which my neighbors really appreciate that we did that.
Yeah.
And then he would call me when there was deals that he thought I would like to invest in, and he just did a really good job for us to the point where he'd go pressure wash a driveway if we were selling something and it wasn't happening fast enough. So he did a really good job, and we just became very good friends, and we have a very similar hard work ethic.
Yeah.
Neither one of us
sleep,
or stop or mind doing anything that we have to do to make a
Right.
business work. I mean, we'll mop the floors, we'll be networking.
I see
whatever,
you guys.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Driving the bikes.
Yeah, every bit of it, we do it. And so we bought a vacation house together on A1A, and we did that together, and it's worked out exceptionally well. And then we bought another house around the corner 2 weeks later, and we renovated that and long-term rented it. So we started doing that. And then when this building came up, I called him and said, what do you think? And he was like, yeah, let's do it. So we did it. And here we are. And we are sleeping less than we ever have. But we both have incredibly supportive, significant others. My husband is working every weekend when he's in town. Tom's fiance, Katie, is working every time she's not scheduled at the hospital where she works. So we just have a really good team, and we have a good support system. Tom definitely taught me how to network in a smaller community, because coming from Atlanta, it was done very differently there. And he's helped me a lot just to figure out how you interact with all the different groups and make time to go to all the different activities, because there's always something going on here.
And you guys are always there.
We're always there. And we divide and conquer half the time. So if it's women's activities, I do it. If it's, group, we do some together. It's just really fun. We have a really fun time doing it.
You make a very good team. And it's funny because I know I'm guilty as charged. I use this term being like, I kind of whore myself online because I have to, like, it's the digital environment. So I don't do a lot of marketing per se, but I have to be in the face of I would imagine my potential consumers by educating them with video, the show, etc. But there's got to be a level. There's always that level of like, okay, I hope that I'm not getting obnoxious, but if I am, it is what it is. Haters, I guess. But you guys do a really good job of actually practicing what you preach, and that's my opinion of like even Tom and stuff, because there's a huge scene of people that just seem to be out there digitally, but then they're not actually backing it up with the relationships and the resources. And it was funny, I had a great chat with my dad the other day, and as I'm getting older, he told me, he gave me like a kind of nice compliment. He says, you're starting to be able to like smell bullshit. And no one really, when you're 20 nothing, because I had always had my odd and end businesses, and I wanted to be the CEO at 20 and but my bullshit meter was way off. I literally was getting in bed financially with people that I was like, it was stupid. Anybody who basically gave me a promise, I was like, like this is gonna be great. And you start to, as you get older, you realize, so it looks like the relationship you and Tom have like carved out, time tells. Right. And I learned one of the coolest things about, I feel so blessed that I always wanted to be like a business guy. And then I evolved into this like interneter, and I get to work with like this array of different businesses. I find I learned so much through even like the dialogue that I get copied on sometimes with people, watching you guys grow. It's very hard to do. It's not common to be successful in a relationship.
It is very hard. And I've had several other business partners before that maybe I should not have had as business partners. But when it comes to business, we both understand there's no feelings involved in business for us. Because sometimes we have to say things to each other that we don't want to hear. So we just lay it out there. We don't hide anything. We don't hold anything back. If it's time for us to sit down and have a chat, we sit down and have a chat. And we both probably go home to our spouses and, cuss about the other one for a few minutes. But then we come back the next day as if nothing ever happened. And that's how we really feel inside. Like, it's business. We can then go out that night, all as a group of friends, party it up and have a great time.
No politics.
So, and I don't know why the two of us are able to do that, but we just are.
I would imagine it's probably because you have enough scar tissue too. Like I've noticed I say no to a lot of people that in a polite way that are younger, and they're like, Jenzo, I got an idea. And I used to, when I was young, I was like, yeah, like we'll do it together. And there is some beauty for accountability and someone help, it's great, whatever the idea or concept is. And it's a younger mindset, like, let's do this together. And I used to do that a lot. As I've gotten older, the people know who they are. And I'm genuine. I'm not mean, just send an email that says no, but I'll say, hey, look, man, you got this. Like, I'll be your biggest fan, but let's not do this together yet. And it's because you have to be very selective. It isn't healthy. It can be very, my cousin and I started our first business when I was 17, and it was very strenuous because we were blood. And then like work came in, and it, enough said, it got tough. Thank God it ended on a good note. We were able to like come through it. But it is tough. So one thing that's interesting is for like, what are some of the woebeguns that you're dealing with that you could help somebody? I know you, like I said, I had no pre-planned questions, but a lot of people, a lot of huge audience of mine of friends I went to school with who are mothers. Some of them are single mothers, and they're working their rear ends off. Not all of them are serial entrepreneurs and stuff, but do you wait? Like, I had a really dear friend of mine named Carla Klein on the show the other day. And she's a working mother, has her own shop. And she shared, it was a gloomy Monday. I almost canceled the show. I didn't feel like doing it. And we pushed through it. We did it. But she shared a really touching story, which was basically, and I didn't really know this about her, that she wakes up a lot and doesn't want to do it. She feels unsuccessful. It's a battle mentally, financially, spiritually. Like, where are you at? Are you at a place of peace? Have you fought? Like, no, like, if you don't mind me asking you this, for those, well, I'm just, for those that are learning or maybe going. That's the point of the whole show. Is I love when people are vulnerable and try to help and share, because this show isn't about the glitz and glam.
Right.
It's about the blood, sweat, and tears that we're putting in to get here, to sacrifice an hour or two with each other. So if you don't mind, like I'm sure you got some.
Yeah. So right now I'm at a really good place. My husband has a phenomenal job. So let's just throw that out there.
Okay.
I can't take full credit. And I think it's really important for women that are listening, if you are in a relationship, that make sure you're with someone that's supportive and is your equal, because otherwise there's going to be a lot of stress on the relationship. I'm twice divorced, so I can say that very comfortably. But my biggest thing that I've come to lately is, my daughter's 21. You just met her. But when she was growing up, I was a single mom for part of the time.
Okay.
And I was always a working mom, and not just a 9-to-5 working mom. I was a however many hours it took working mom. And a lot of the women around me, I don't know if they looked down on me or if I just felt that way.
Is this in Atlanta, by the way, a timestamp? Okay.
Yeah. And there's a lot of women that stayed at home, which is a great thing. Right. That's awesome. If you enjoy that, that's great. I don't. So I don't know if sometimes they got intimidated. I don't know what it was, but I feel like there was some judgment that went on
amongst your other women,
amongst other moms.
Okay.
I wasn't at every single PTA meeting, and I didn't go to every single school play. I did the best I could to get to the ones I could.
Okay.
And so for any working moms out there that feel that anxiety or feel like you're a failure as a mother because of that, my question is, how many people judge husbands for working or the fathers for working? In fact, if you have a dad that doesn't work, there's more judgment. So if you say, what does your dad do or what does your husband do, you expect an answer. When it comes to a working mother, there's some judgment, and there shouldn't be. If you're a woman that enjoys working, work, because what you're going to do if you don't work is teach your children not to follow their dreams. And I think you should teach your children whatever their dream is. If it's to be a stay-at-home mom, that's fine. But whatever it is, if you're not backing it up with what you're doing, then they're not going to follow suit. So at the end of the day, after the years that I felt I was judged or whatnot, most of those people are now coming to me saying, hey, I admire you for taking chances. I admire you for following your dreams. Can you help me as I'm thinking about doing such and such?
Right.
And it's become very rewarding, but it was a lot of years of me feeling like people looked down on me or judged me, or I don't really know how to verbalize.
I'm picking up what you're throwing down.
Yeah.
I never thought about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I love this show.
Yeah.
Is that I would have, but you're once again, you're getting it from, let me make up you're in the checkout line at a grocery store and you see Susie who lives down the street, and Susie's like, oh, did you hear about the birthday party next week? And you're like, I can't make it.
Yeah.
And you get that like, huh.
Yeah.
Is that what we're talking about?
Or like you have to call
another
someone
one?
And say, yeah, another one you're not going to get to.
And you're like, your daughter's going.
Yeah.
You're not going to be there. Where is an MIA mom? Like, is that kind of
that kind of thing? I pulled up to the elementary school.
Can you give me a timestamp when this was? Was this like 10 years ago?
Mostly
when she was younger?
When she was in elementary
school. She's
school.
still young. 21. So,
yeah. So mostly when she was in
15,
elementary school, middle school, high school, the kids become relatively independent.
Right.
But there were still parents that Tiana cheered all through high school, and she cheered football and basketball. Football, there's a game once a week. That's somewhat manageable.
Right.
Basketball, there's like 74 games a week. It's not realistic.
Right.
So we tried to get to most of them between me and Colin. But sometimes we didn't go, and there were parents that never missed a single one.
Right.
I don't know how they did that. Kudos to them.
Right.
But she can survive without me being at every game.
Right.
When she was in elementary school, the biggest, like, whoa, when I had the realization of, I don't want to be that mom.
Right.
And that's not because it's wrong, just because it's not me. It's not who I am. They were having the walkathon, and that's where the kids go into the gymnasium and they walk in circles. And however many circles they do, if you sponsor 10 cents or $1 a circle, that's how much they raise. So I get invited, and for whatever reason, I had 20 minutes that I could pop in and see her walking in a circle, which is fascinating. And I was not looking forward to it. It's just trying to be a supportive mom.
Right.
So I pulled up to the school, and there's no parking.
It's a zoo.
Cars everywhere. And I'm seeing people get out with their carry-on chairs and their coolers, not of drinks that I would want to have at a walkathon, but their coolers of sodas and waters or whatever. And they're walking into the school to set up shop for the next 4 hours to watch their child walk in a circle.
Right.
And I sat there for 20 minutes and I was like, peace out. I got to go. And I walked out of there thinking, I wouldn't be happy doing that. I would go crazy sitting there for 4 hours walking. And I don't want anyone to ever have to watch me walk in a circle for 4 hours either. So it's,
right.
that was just kind of my moment where I was like, wait a minute. And then people would always say, like, my husband travels Monday through Friday, and no one ever questioned that he would travel.
Right.
But it would be weird if I couldn't be at something because I worked. And I just was like, that's not right.
Right.
Why can't I build a career? Why can't I build a life? And so as you know, I wrote a book, and I talk a lot about that in the book. And I talk about, just being who you are, whoever you are, that's who you are, and just embrace it, because everyone else already has their gig going on.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my advice to working moms. And again, to stay-at-home moms, I think sometimes there's this perception that working moms look down on stay-at-home moms and vice versa. I can't speak for anyone else, but I don't. My mom was a stay-at-home mom until we were all grown. And it was a phenomenal experience as a child to have her there and available and be room mom and team mom. And so I think it's a great thing if that's what makes you happy.
Right. It's crazy because as I'm starting to try to enlighten myself and understand these like social politics, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm really jaded in a good way. Like, I don't really see much because you getting a good feel for me as we've been working together. I kind of stay on my little island.
Yep.
I'm not, I don't know. I don't have a lot of interaction with a lot of negativity, thank God. But the show has turned on this huge, massive like pipeline of people calling me, most of which I grew up with, because I think that's kind of the catalyst. It's like they feel comfortable because they know me and they know that I'm going to listen, and I never kiss and tell. So I'm not going to be like, yo, you got to hear what, such and such said. She hates her life. What they're sharing with me, and majority are women, right? Because I don't want to be like Mr. Chivalrous and be like, girl power, but it really is interesting. And I've said this now a few times over the last few episodes. So if it's becoming redundant for the audience, like, sorry, but there's a lot of power in this. And it was a guy, shout out to Matthew Deckman, great guy. And he said that we know that Me Too movement, we know all that. And I'm all for those things. But then there's that weird cusp of things when things start to become commercialized from a digital standpoint, where like the Me Too hashtag starts to be put on like a Louis Vuitton advertisement. And you're like, come on.
Yeah.
That's not what this is. That's not what I thought it was about.
It's not what it should be about.
It would be like literally me putting a Me Too hashtag on like my post tomorrow.
Right.
Like Me Too, like hire me. Like, wait, this isn't you. So it's like, I think there was the principle was there. And then some things start to go into play. We still, as a society, a woman taking a photo of her rear end will get the 21 million likes. We still endorse that as a society, which is weird, but we want the Me Too.
Right.
But then we also want women to be paid more and acknowledged and have the same type of opportunity as men. But then we don't back it up again. So there's this. Right. So here's what's the most interesting thing about the whole is that in the States, it's one thing, but now you take it from a global perspective. And what Matthew brought up, which is just, it's just like wearing on me in a good way. Cause I want to see it change. But like, for instance, they discovered the black hole thing yesterday. Did you hear about this?
No, I did not hear.
Oh my God. Okay. Not to change subjects, but real quick, a woman photoed it. She took the first time in the history of mankind, we were able to actually take a photo of a black hole. The point of no return.
Right.
I don't understand any of it.
I don't understand.
I've watched
wormholes
like
and all that.
Yeah. So it's past my pay grade, but the principle of this and the beauty of it was a woman was able to do
it. Right.
So thank God. And now this was a global mission. This wasn't like 5 scientists in LA. Like this was a global like union of these people coming together to accomplish this. And it was awesome that a woman happened to be like the one that captured it. But you take that same principle, and what Matthew says is, imagine that woman now being able to express a cure for AIDS, cure for cancer, and he believes, which is actually a really good theory, he believes that women are maybe the gateway of that if they were nurtured.
Right.
And like it was, so, but I've never known, see, obviously I tell a lot of people if they do call, or my peers and stuff, like I don't have advice for things I haven't been through.
Right.
And I haven't been through that much.
Right.
So when someone calls me and it is a working mother and they're like, oh, now they've never shared with me, like Susie's mad at me, like that kind of thing. But it's kind of nauseating to think that there's that feeling of, for instance, I guess it's the same perspective, like a guy, like I'm expected to be a millionaire.
Right.
And my wife is supposed to not have to do anything.
Right.
And I'm supposed to, we're supposed to be on private jets. And like that's what men
That's what I tell my husband too. Yeah.
But there's that, the what do you do complex is very rich amongst men. It's that syndrome's there and it hasn't changed for millennia. Like that, what do you do? And that man is supposed to say something cool and have an acronym behind your name, and you better have a lot of money. Mm-hmm. That's like how people. Now I'm talking about that's the layman people.
Yes, yeah.
But women, what an interesting. I think it's fantastic you're sharing that. Is that did it change as you've gotten older, or do you still feel little hems and haws at the checkout line?
Now I ignore it, so it doesn't. Okay, that's changed. I'm older. As you get older, you stop caring what other people think so much. And I do think when you bring up the Me Too movement and such, I think it started with the right idea. And I think we have to realize, like, in this country, we are significantly more advanced than a lot of other countries for women. So we're leading the way for women internationally. I think there's some frustration because we're 72 cents to the dollar of a man or whatnot. There's some things that I think we need to take into account. We do get maternity leave. And yes, I know that's a very hard job, but you're also not working during that time. There's things that women are allowed to do that men aren't allowed to get away with in the workforce. Does that justify that we get paid less? No, but also this is kind of a new thing. I mean, we got the right to vote in like the 20s. We didn't really come into the workforce until 50, 60 years ago out of thousands of years. Mm-hmm. So the expectation that we would suddenly be equal pay and equal everything is not realistic. Right. It's a work in progress. And so women, instead of getting bowed up and all mad and turning into where people sometimes don't want to work with angry women. Right. I mean, Hillary Clinton's a great example. She's very successful, but she's so bowed up about stuff that people think she's a bitch without ever meeting her. And so I don't think that that's necessarily the route to go. I think we need to find a nicer way to go about moving forward. But that being said, we also have to work our asses off. So, women, we talk about the differences. You're expected to have a cool job. If you climb a telephone pole for a living, that's acceptable. A woman, that'd be weird, So I think a lot of the manual labor stuff, we as women tend to stay away from. And I think we kind of have to overcome that because you have to be willing to get your knees dirty, to get the job done. And so sometimes that takes doing the job that no one wants to do. And women are starting to do that more and more, I think. Right. But I just think we need to be proud of how far we've come in our country and where we're headed. So
you bring up a good point. And that was, I had a guy on recently and he must have said like education a million times and it was awesome. It's every time he said it, it was so applicable and it still carried so much validity because he kept preaching this and he enlightened me because that's such an easy word to use, like educate, educate somebody, but he's talking about, so in this perspective, I use this as an example of the day. There's a huge movement of people trying to go electric cars. Great concept. We're going to be there one day. But then there's a whole huge crew of people that are stopping traffic on major highways in countries, and they're protesting. Right. And they're great. They're carrying a mission. But let's educate. So here's the educational piece. We know if today, this is a fact, and I didn't know this. I didn't care enough to even research it. It was told to me during a show that I watch. And it said that if today were the last day that the last petroleum-based vehicle was produced, it would take 50 plus years for that car to finally putt its last putt. So now if you educate yourself, now do you go out there and rape and pillage and stop by 4, or do you now put a game plan together that's going to be in unison with the facts? Right. And that, I think what you brought up, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that if we as a society start to educate, and it may not be pretty, and say, hey, listen, man, from women to women, and whether it's through a school system or whether it's just from the immediate parents, and say, listen, it's going to be hell out here for a hot minute. Yeah. You're going to get frowned upon. You're going to get this, you're going to get that, but there is a bright side. But educating them and saying, don't try to make the change, be the change. Right. And I've noticed, I've said this a few times because I read this a while back, but it's like everyone wants to change the world. But a great dude once said, start by making your own bed.
Or changing the toilet paper.
Or changing, you know what I mean? Something so simple. And we really do, I feel, as a society. And I'm learning. I don't have it figured out.
None of us do.
But I've learned that I could go out here today and I could get irritated so easily with people throwing a cigarette butt on the ground, someone walking over the dune, someone locking a dog in a car, all those things. That's when I want to pillage.
Yep.
But I now try to take a route of educating. And there's never like a specific way of doing it. I don't hand a flyer out to the guy throwing the butt on the floor.
Right.
Maybe I go pick it up and just deal with it.
Right.
Because I learned, I pray a lot. And I remember one day I was like literally wanted to like kill this person for like just ruining, it was a dog in the car.
Right.
I really wanted to knock him out.
I would have wanted to knock him out too.
Like windows like that, like the whole thing. And
Yeah.
I feel like it's God testing me of like, what are we going to do now?
Right.
Because I really do want to like, I want to speak with the fists and I want to, not that I'm a fighter, but I just want to be like, guy,
just knock his window out.
You're at a restaurant, bro. Like you can't just get it to go, whatever. I don't go. But my point is, I remember I was like praying in the midst of it of like, give me peace, quick with my mind, slow with my tongue. What am I going to do here? I remember just hearing my own, I just felt like it's their earth too.
Yep. Now,
granted, I did educational perspective versus this described perspective. But what you're sharing with the audience, like I know it's going to resonate with a lot of the women, and especially women. There's so many single moms.
Yep.
And one of my first businesses was Pickle, which was a clothing company, and then that morphed into Baby Pickle. And I felt on my heart to kind of morph it into this like mission that was to help out single moms and families in need. And it didn't have to be a single mom for me to help you, but there was such a huge, I had no idea. And I was only 20 nothing.
Yeah.
People would take me saying, like, were you raised with a single mom or like a non-nucleus family? And I'm like, nah, I was like perfect America. I had no bad horror story. And I'm not saying it's bad, but it's absolutely more difficult.
It is more difficult. You have one person instead of two.
Right.
You're juggling every single ball that you can juggle. And there were definitely days that she, I'm sure, heard me with behind the door, just laying on the floor, bawling my eyes out because I didn't know how I was going to make it. I mean, when I was a single mom, I lost my home to foreclosure and I went bankrupt.
Wow.
And when that happened, I thought that the world was ending.
Right.
And I do talk about that in the book too. So I think people see me now and I live a glorious life. It's amazing. And they think, oh, she must have just been born into it, or she's so lucky. And I hear all the time, everything you touch turns to gold. That is not true. I've been through hell and back to get where I am. And, she had to go on the ride with me. Yeah. And when you're sitting there and you can't provide a home for your child, that's devastating. So
you talk about that in the book?
I do.
That's some vulnerability.
I'm very open about it. Why write a book?
How long did that season last?
So that was in 2007. I had gotten married in 2006. Sorry, I got married in 2006 on April Fool's Day because it was a joke of a marriage. And truly was.
It really was April 1st.
It really was April Fool's Day. And that was...
You jinxed yourself.
No, it was jinxed to begin with. I think that was perfect planning. And I married a guy that was aggressive and really liked other women and did not find fidelity to be something that was important to him or being nice. I mean, I don't even think the top name that he used to scream at me, I don't even think you'd want me to say on your show. And she witnessed all of that, my daughter. And so within 11 months, I said, we're done. I'm not going to live this way. And in order for him to leave, we owned, I'd started a bunch of trucking companies and packaging supply companies, and we were doing really well, but the economy had started to tank, so that affected it as well.
It was like 2008-ish, you said, right?
2007 is when I got divorced,
yeah.
And
things are bad.
They were getting really bad, and he refused to leave unless I agreed to assume every dollar of debt, which was $212,000 of the combined vehicles and such.
And that financial scene.
And yeah, and so yeah, I took all the debt, plus I had to give him cash to leave, which my parents thankfully stepped in and did help. Because they were concerned for our lives. But so he left. And so I shut down all my companies because I knew I needed to get an immediate salary. I went back to work in financial services and got the salaried job and went bankrupt, foreclosed, worked everything out. But it was, I remember
How old was she at this point?
So if that was 2007, so she was 9.
Did she know what was going on?
She didn't understand foreclosure or bankruptcy. She knew that I was very worried about money. She knew that we would look at houses that were not similar to the house that she had been living in. And so where I could afford I'm a fan of most public schools. I think public schools in a lot of areas are great and should be supported. So I wanted to keep her in public school. And where we were looking, that was not going to be a reality.
Okay.
So I took her to a few private schools, which then I'm like, how do I afford private school? And I can't afford to live anywhere, but I also wasn't going to let my kid be in a gang.
Right.
So, and it eventually worked itself out, and we ended up, making it through. And, but I would say it was a good 1.5 to 2 years that it was really, really difficult.
It's like every day was a
struggle. Every day was, gas had gone up to $4 a gallon at that point in time. Yeah, it was crazy. And so you just push through. And if anyone's struggling out there, every single day I got up, I worked out, I went to work, I did my job, I came home, I worked at night, I did whatever I had to do to get out of it because I didn't want to stay there forever.
Right.
But it was tough. I mean, it was very, very difficult.
I'm sure this is in your book, and I'm sure it's very hard to do this, but was there kind of like a top 5 like sheet you relied on mentally that were like, I got like that were you a prayer? Were you
I'm not a prayer.
Well, what was your,
so I do turn to exercise for stress relief. I do meditate sometimes. So that's, I guess, a form of prayer. I read and I drink wine a lot.
That always helps.
So, and I work for stress relief. I think, if you're doing something that you want to be doing, not that you necessarily like doing,
right,
but that you want to be doing, then I would take the focus off. I see people when they get depressed, they just sit there and they do nothing.
Right.
And that festers that depression. And I was definitely depressed. And so what I would do was work. And if I kept busy, then I didn't have time to be depressed. And so during this time is actually when I started Masterpiece Mixers. I had no money. I didn't know how we were going to do it. And I didn't know how to paint. I wasn't an artist. So, but I wanted to start this art studio, and I just used grit, and we did it, and it grew. And I mean, I remember when 2 different people said to me, "You're never going to make that work." And I love when people say that to me because challenge accepted. It's why I'm on Main Street. People say you'll never make it work on Main Street. Well, let's find out. Maybe I won't, but I'm going to give it a hell of a try,
right.
So, but yeah, it was a tough time. And then 10 years, maybe not quite 10 years, but 8 years after that, when we'd franchised to all these locations, my company attorney, who was actually a franchise owner, my other giant financial rough period was this point. Her franchise location started to fail.
Okay.
She got fired from her job as a corporate attorney at the firm that she worked at.
Wow.
And she was running out of money. She got into, just because she was an attorney doesn't mean she knows how to handle finances. So she had tens of thousands of dollars in credit card debt, was in over her head. And so being my attorney, she was very familiar with any assets I had. And so she in turn turned around and sued me personally, my husband personally, and all of my businesses because it was a completely fraudulent lawsuit.
Wow.
But she knew it's cheaper to settle than to fight. So she sued us for hundreds of thousands of dollars.
On the pretense of what? Just some kind of fluke
So
thing?
she wrote my franchise documents. And she sued me on the basis that there was an item missing out of the franchise documents that she wrote.
Oh my God.
So
Did you come out of that? It was
awesome. So we got a kick-ass attorney. I say awesome. It cost me $50,000 to walk away from nothing, We got a kick-ass attorney. If you're ever in a tough situation and you have to get an attorney, I probably interviewed 50 attorneys before I chose one because I knew this was a big deal for me. And so, we ended up winning. Everything was dropped. Everything was dismissed. But I still paid $50,000 in attorney's fees, but it was worth it. And could I have settled? Probably I could have called her and said $20,000 and you walk away. Yeah. But I'm a principle oriented person and I wasn't willing to do it. I hadn't wronged her. And so I wasn't willing to pretend like I had.
You needed that like a hole in the head though, huh?
Yeah. And luckily we were at a point then where, it didn't destroy us.
Right.
Whereas had I been 24,
right,
I would have been like, let's settle for $100 because that's all I have,
right.
But the good news is you don't get sued when you only have $100,
right.
And the joke among my successful friends is when I would call people and I'd be crying. And again, it was one of those periods where I just would lay on the ground crying thinking, why is this happening to me? And what did I do to this person? And one of my wealthier friends said, welcome to the club.
Yeah, welcome aboard, right?
And I said, what do you mean? He said, he said, you're successful when someone sues you.
Yeah.
So thanks. Great. But it's true. Everyone that I know that's been decently successful has been sued.
Yeah.
And it's because there's always going to be bottom feeders that are looking to take things from you. So you just got to learn to protect yourself as you go.
So I grew up in the era of, Tupac and Biggie Smalls and all that.
Oh yeah. So did I.
And one of Biggie's best statements is more money, more problems.
Yeah.
And, I still have my goals and aspirations to become more financially fit, but I want it to become more and more disposable income when I need this stuff now. I used to have the goals and the dreams of having the Ferraris. And I think, I really do feel deep down inside, I will get them. But I've learned that by the time I do, I don't think anyone's going to know I have it.
Yeah. Yeah.
As I've gotten older, and the people that I do admire that I know have it, most of them don't even know that I know they have it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with, obviously, if you're driving down the A1A with you drop down, I get it. But there's a whole level of the selfie crew too. And it's like, and there's a huge scene that's out there. And especially with the whole rental process. And there's a lot of guys younger than me that are pushing the my kind of program, the interneting world.
Right.
And they're pushing I'm rich and I'm internet. And I'm thinking, okay. But my point is, it's interesting that, once you start to you change tax brackets, things change. Friends change.
Yep.
Solicitations in the mail change.
Yep.
Everything. And it's, you start to walk, and I'm nowhere near the kind of, money when it comes to the big leagues, but I've noticed just from going, just from my 20s and 30s and having $10 in my bank account starts to change.
Yep.
And for those that are listening, I don't have much advice financially, but I can tell you, keep it to yourself.
Keep it to yourself. And and again, if you're young, and we all, like at 24, 25, we all wanted to be in a Ferrari. We all wanted those things. I wanted a boat so bad. I still want a yacht so bad. I can't stand it.
Keep going.
But you're young, and the only way you're going to get there, I tell my daughter this, you have a couple options. You can marry someone who's wealthy and maybe live miserably. Maybe not. I mean, if you like them, great, awesome, high five. But you can do that. You can win the lottery, and the percentage odds of that are so low, it's not real.
Right.
Or you can do what 99.99% of wealthy people do, and that's work your ass off.
Yeah.
And that's the only way to get there. There's no shortcuts. There's nothing. But don't sit there at 24. I did a spreadsheet when I graduated college, and my dad lost his job right before I started school. So I had to pay for my education, which was a total of $54,000. And then I had to buy a car, and I had car insurance, and I had my first little apartment and my bills. And, I had got a really good starter job compared to the rest of the world, but it paid $28,000 a year. And so when you break that down and you looked at the student loan payments that I had and everything I had to pay, I seriously had $26 left over a month. So I didn't drink wine back then, or if I did, it was a giant jug thing that was really gross. I borrowed clothes. I still borrow clothes because it's not a thing. Some people, women love purses and some women love clothing.
Mm-hmm.
That's just not my thing.
Right.
So I'll borrow it. Like if there's an evening gown event, I'll borrow something. I have no issue with that. But you find ways that you just make it. You find ways to cut corners and to scrape by. And some of that, for me, some of that stuck with me. I mean, you see my truck's wrapped, and that's nice, but I still drive a pickup truck. Yeah. And it's because it's very useful for me in what I do. I should, in all theories, drive a really nicer car. I'm not going to do that. I have 3 dogs. I transport stuff all over the place. I'm sweaty half the time from running around doing a million different things. I don't need a nice car because I'm just going to wreck it, but if I get a boat, it's going to be nice because I won't wreck that.
Well, that will be, everyone deserves a little, as long as it doesn't own you. Yeah. And I've been having a lot of these chitty chats with people more recently than not. And it's funny, the common denominator amongst those that I'm admiring, and you're in that same program, is this. You see me now. You're at my kitchen table, and like you see, I had a guy on the show the other day, and he's traveling the world. He's a nomad, and he came on the show. I literally don't know anything about him except a guy named Paul. And I asked him what normally people are. What's the number one question when you tell people that you've been in like 5 countries in the last 6 months? How you afford that? Yeah. And so I came off that way because I wanted to kind of speak for I know they're probably, but his answer was, I don't have a car. And you take the average American, okay, that's from let's just say from 30 and on, $50,000-ish car, usually.
Yeah.
Brand new.
Yep.
Now the insurance on the car.
Yep.
So let's just say the average American now is at probably $500 to $700 in car payment and insurance combined.
Which I still can't imagine.
Me neither.
It makes me crazy.
I'm never had a new car.
Neither
personally.
have I.
So now you take that, which is literally a mortgage payment. If you're, in my opinion, I think if you're smart and live within your means, so that's your mortgage. Now you take all the little odd and ends that, did you buy the $12,000 grill? Did you need the with all the little odd and end things? And look, there's nothing wrong with all that at all. If it's disposable and you've got that, then God bless.
Yep.
But I've noticed the few times that I do get things that are fancy. And for instance, when I got the stupid watch a couple of years ago, when you first put it on, and you're like, oh man, like you don't want to get it scratched. You're not using it. You're not even using it for what it's supposed to be served for. Because you're like, and then the minute you start to go like, screw it, man, it's meant to break.
Yeah. Nothing.
And I've been trying to teach it more to myself than anything. And I learned it, thank God, at a younger age, it's all just stuff. It's all just stuff. I loved one material thing my young adult life, and that was a stupid motorcycle. I loved it. I really did. I remember I loved it. If anybody asked me about my bike, I would love it. And I broke it. Yeah. And I hated it. Yeah. And I tell people, don't love anything that is material. It's got a heartbeat. Go away. Love it. Yes. Sure. Yeah. And then even that brings up a whole nother issue that you got it. The world don't owe us anything. Nope. So if we're lucky enough to have these people in our life and they're healthy and they cherish it. Yeah. Because it's not promised tomorrow, but you got a really good heart. Yeah. You've been through some stuff. And I know you're kind of just given the, each story could turn into its own, I'm sure, avenue of crazy
stuff that's happened.
But think about, 365 plus days of a really bad season. Yeah.
It's terrible. And there's people that go through worse. And like I said, I've been divorced twice and neither time was easy. Neither time was obviously when you're first in love with someone, you think that that's going to work out great. And I'm now a proponent of the 10-year marriage contract, which everyone laughs at me for. But every contract in the world has a beginning and ending date except for marriage. And some people say, well, what about the religion aspect? Doesn't matter. You can still honor that. I would renew my contract with my husband. We're just at 10 years in a second.
For those that don't know what that means, like me, what is that?
What is a marriage contract? Okay. So
is it a prenup?
It's not a real thing. It's not a real thing. Okay. It doesn't exist. It's
this
just
is a
made
Krista
up by
thing.
me.
I like this.
So, both times that I got divorced, it was very financially costly for me and emotionally costly.
Sure.
And I started to see it. A lot of my friends, our divorce rate is like 60 something percent.
So every day it goes up.
It's really high. Yeah. And when you see people get married at 25, 30, 35, whatever age, 25-year-old Krista and 41-year-old Krista are two very different people.
Right.
So it's no surprise that as I change over the years, whoever the spouse would also change over the years. So we have this pressure that once you get married, you're supposed to stay married. But what if it's not working? And it's not that either of you are bad people. It's just not working. Right. So again, every financial contract that I'm aware of has a beginning and end date. Marriage is a form of a financial contract. So if you had a 10-year contract or 5-year, whatever it is, then at the end of 10 years, rather than have a nasty divorce, you sit back and say, do we want to renew this contract?
I love this.
And then there's no divorce. You just either renew or you don't renew.
Are the financials in the contract?
Absolutely.
Oh my God.
It's a contract. You would have to have financials in it. So if what you agree at 25 years old is wherever we are at 35, if this doesn't work out, we get 50-50 or 90-10 or whatever number you want to come up with. But you're only stuck in that for 10 years. So if you really screw it up when you're 25 and say, you can have 100%, whatever, then at 10 years later, you can start over and you renegotiate that contract. And I just think, I don't know.
Where did you come up with this? Was this like counseled to you?
No, a girlfriend of mine, she had gotten divorced and she said it should have a beginning and end date. And so I laughed at her at the time and I was like, that's so stupid. And then as I got older and started seeing so much divorce and so many people having these very expensive divorces where the children lose out, the parents lose out, the only person getting wealthy is the attorney. There has to be a better way. And the better way, yeah, in theory, it would be everyone just stays married and loves each other forever, but that doesn't seem to be the reality. So let's think of some more creative ways to do it. So anyway, I'm a fan of that. And I do believe I would renew my contract with my husband forever and ever and ever. And I would sign a 50-year contract with him. So
what year are you in?
10.
So you
we've been
hit your
together,
10 years.
Yeah, we've been together over 10 years, but married.
Is
10
this like a
years.
legal binding thing, or is it just more
Just
of like
totally made up in my head? Yeah, it's a made up contract.
Never have I ever. This is fascinating. Is this in your book?
I don't know that I put the marriage. Maybe I did.
You got to do another book.
Now I'm gonna have to. Yeah, there's gonna be a second and third.
I'm reading this book that when I'm reading it, it reminds me of you. Believe it or not, because I know we're kind of we're working. Things are good right now. We're talking a lot, so like you're in my mind freshly. And there's this lady. I think her name's Sarah King. If I ruined that, I don't know. Sorry. But she's got these like series of books, and they seem to be smaller reads, which I'm good at. I don't like big reads.
Yep.
And one of them is, this title of it is called "You Do You."
Yep.
And that's kind of like my little business saying. It's like, I do web, you do you. It's like, it caught my eye on the iBooks. So I started reading, and she's got a couple of them. Like, they're not like self-help, but they're just like right to the point. And this girl's been through some riffraff.
Yep.
And this book is I'm only like probably 2-3 chapters in, but the whole principle is just do you, and stop worrying. So as long as your motive is pure, though. Yeah. I was talking to my dad, and I didn't want to come off like the books. I try not to be too influenced by like everything I read, and I don't try to like get on that bandwagon. I'm like, okay, because I know I have my own morale. And I still have my own spiritual beliefs, and I want to keep those intact before I just like change my, have this paradigm shift of thought. I'm like, okay, now I'm going to do this. So I don't want to extract because there's a little bit of, sometimes I feel she's kind of just like F the world and do you. But I still think as long as your motive's pure, and you brought up something really funny, because I keep getting offered, I had a buddy offer me the other day to drive me to the airport. And I said, in all due respect, no, thank you, because I'm never going to drive you to the airport.
Right.
To Orlando anyways.
Oh, absolutely not.
So if it was life, and I told him, I said, life threatening,
sure,
I got you, babe.
Yeah.
Like going to the airport.
I'm not driving to Orlando unless I have to.
Casually taking you to the Orlando airport, where Orlando's an hour away from Orlando, and I hate Orlando. So I politely only said what I would I'm giving what I would expect. And I know that's not really, unless I'm giving without the intention of being given back.
Yeah.
But I don't want to receive a favor that I wouldn't be willing to pay back.
Yeah.
And there's like a huge underrated term in this society, and it's no, thank you.
Yeah.
People just said, and being an Italian guy, you can't say, no one says no.
Right.
I grew up saying yes to 30 people.
Yeah.
I was that guy. Hey man, you want to hang out on Saturday? Yeah, I'll hang out on Saturday. I made 300 promises, and then you friend shop.
Yeah.
Like, I think I'm going to go to this party.
Yeah.
And it's so wrong. It's not, but the no thank you movement should be so much stronger.
Absolutely.
Well, I've had people now say no thank you to the show, and it's been nice.
Yeah.
No thank you. Easy peasy.
You don't have to argue. You don't have to worry about it. There's no game being played.
No hard feelings. They don't tell me that their leg's falling off, or they want to do it tomorrow, and then they don't show. A no thank you in any capacity is, I feel, so genuine and so real. And it actually kind of like shuts you up mentally for a minute, and you go, oh, wait a minute. They're at peace, or they got something. Like, I'm not
the most important person.
I'm not that important.
What's wrong with that?
And it's kind of like Rogan preaches about taking, whether it's microdosing or taking it in general, but like taking something that does make you feel inferior, and marijuana is a big component of that. So THC, I think, is extremely healthy for a person to ingest to some capacity,
right.
And not a lot. But I think it will remind you that you're not that important.
You're not that important. You're a very small thing in this
very
big
small
planet.
Thing.
Yeah.
You're loved.
Yeah.
But you're not going to change the world's, you're not going to change anything. You make it better.
Yep.
But you're not going to like alter where everything's going, in my opinion, unless you're like trying to commit genocide or something. But
do you listen to Aubrey Marcus too?
No.
Oh, he's Joe Rogan and him are big. Yeah.
I'll have to write
some weird,
that
interesting stuff. I mean, some of his podcasts, I'm like,
a little trippy.
Always fascinating, very trippy. But always fascinating, but got some really, I think, good ideas and good points. And sometimes it goes too far, but
I think there's a level of, you got to know what to take that's applicable to you.
Yeah.
Some people are very easily imprinted.
Yeah.
And they're like, did you hear?
Yeah.
Good bourbon. I'm like, okay, listen, you have to have your own flavor too.
Yeah.
And I have a theory that I lived by for a very long time, is I don't believe that people make other people better. And if it's in your vernacular, I think it's kind of like, he or she makes me a better person. My job makes me a better person. Like, I think they're just not whole.
Yeah.
And that person and their job or thing ain't going to be there tomorrow anyways, in theory.
Yep.
So why don't you just get whole? And like I said, it was weird to be growing up in this world and have someone say like, no, thank you, and not give you an alibi.
Yeah.
Like, well, what do you mean? No, thank you. You're not going to, I got a party. You got to come.
You got to
like,
go.
No, thanks.
Yeah.
And there's no, long-winded explanation.
My grandmother died, and I've got, all that stuff that you hear.
But it's not well received all the time.
Yeah.
I know I have a large percentage of, I'm sure, my own immediate family, and I've said no to a few things, and it's altered even some of my friendships that I've had.
I'm guessing if you're Italian, maybe Catholic.
Grew up kind of the Catholic is in this. I'm like non-denominational.
Okay.
If I were to, but the Catholicism was always the kind of the
behind it. So I grew up Catholic as well.
Yes.
And there is that Catholic guilt that you don't say no to your family. And my mom is phenomenal. I don't care if she's listening. She knows it's true. If you say no to my mom, she'll accept it. And she's going to love you no matter what. But there's that little bit that you're like, she's going to be really mad at me. And she'll get over it. She's lovely. My mom's an amazing human being. But it is hard to say no. And it is something that you have to practice at. I was telling a girl who was in the studio yesterday, and we were just talking about all the different things that have been going on, all the different events that you can go to. And I said, I love living here. I love living here. It's so my personality because you have people from all different walks of life. I like people that are hoity-toity. I like people that are redneck. I like people that think they're gangsters. I like them all, and if they're nice, only if they're nice. And so there's all of that here. It's a melting pot. And I said, but what I'm learning is I don't have the time in my day to be friends with everyone. So I have to be very selective about who do I give my time to. And that is saying no thank you to some things. And you don't want to hurt anyone's feelings because it's not necessarily anything they did. It's more, I just don't have time. And these are the choices I've had to make. So it is hard to say no thank you, but it is important. And it is. I appreciate when people say it to me.
I do. I'm learning. And that's kind of, this book fell into my lap, figuratively speaking, because I've been dealing with, I talk to my dad a lot, and I've been saying like, I'm losing fans. I think it's funny. Like I'm growing fans digitally, which is cool because I'm not making any money. It's whatever, fine. But like in my own personal life, whether it's a friend, family, etc., they're dwindling. Yeah, it's really. And I'm not saying this to like woe is me, but like it's interesting. And then you have that decision to make. And I was asking this to the guy who was traveling the earth, which I think is
awesome,
amazing. Yeah. And it's not even the travel. There's that younger mindset, I think, of like traveling that can be picked up and like traveling. Like it's not about just, it can be as easy as leaving the 3213736. Just
which
go.
Is a big deal for people around here.
Huge deal. Very big
when
deal.
I tell people I live in South Daytona and they live in Ormond, they're like, oh, I don't know if I can come visit you. I'm like, it's 10 minutes. Yeah. We have a joke that they don't go south of Granada. So
we have our own little one here too, north and south. But you take that, and I still have family and friends that have never even been on an airplane. Yeah. And I'm not saying the airplane is your meal ticket and the segue of a better life, but it will teach you to probably appreciate a little bit more.
And to understand the world around you. Yeah.
And it's interesting. And then there's that whole new thing. And you hear this, and we see it in every meme. We hear it in almost every song. And that is like negative people. Well, here's my opinion of this negative thing. We all can be negative.
Absolutely.
We're all going to have a negative day. So it's not like it's not like this group, because there's a lot of people posting this a lot lately, and you all know who you are, and God bless, and I understand. But they write this like book, or they vent, or they put a meme, and everyone posts whatever you want. It's your wall. Yeah. But when you're like, we know who you're talking to.
Yeah. Yeah. They're subtweeting or whatever it's called. Yeah.
Vague book.
Yeah.
Like they're like, to those that are not, it's like, listen,
come
people,
on.
I know you're talking to me.
Yeah.
You're mad that I did it. So I had this chat with somebody the other day, and I go, this person is literally addressing like me, like 99% me, 1% maybe a colleague. And it's a family member. And this is part of the show. That doesn't matter the name of it, but it really ripped my heart out for me. 'Cause I'm like, you're using this medium to basically say like, get away from negative people. And it's like, there's no one, that category doesn't apply to that person forever. And I've had my negative days, and that person, definitely probably upset because I'm Italian and I'm hot-headed, and I may have said, you're being an idiot.
Right.
And I wish you weren't being an idiot.
Right. Like the email exchange you and I had.
Yeah. We did have one, which I would love to talk about. That meant, you have no idea how much that meant to me when we made up. But that's how I am. And I know that I'm wrong at places. But the thing is, when we like put these people in these categories as like negative people, like my father taught me mercy, and people will change and grow. And if you shut them out, that's, I think, not fair to humanity.
Right.
And yourself.
Because we all have bad times. Yeah. And I think even when people post, I mean, I think women, you might be shocked to hear this, but we overanalyze everything.
No.
I know, surprising. I'll see someone post something. I saw this yesterday. And they started off by saying, I usually don't post this stuff. And I'm thinking, then why are you starting? Right. But they posted this whole thing about talking about people and whatnot. And I love you if you're listening. Sorry. And I read it and I thought, did I say something was that about me? And I don't think, I'm positive it wasn't about me at the end of the day, but I started to think about it and I'm like, oh. And so if I was thinking that, and I certainly had nothing to do with the whole situation, imagine how many other people were thinking that the negative post was about them.
Right.
And it's like, so then you create this anxiety, and it's, you want to unfriend the people that constantly post the negative stuff, but then you don't want to hurt their feelings because maybe they need you to be their friend, but I don't want to see negativity all day long. And it's hard. Social media is hard. It's
weird.
It is weird. And I'm so glad we did not have it when we were younger, because it would have been very difficult for me as a teenager to handle. And even as a young 20s, like,
it's hard to handle now.
It's hard to handle the perfect bodies and stuff. I'm looking on Instagram and I'm like, I would love to look like that just 1 minute of my life. Not a whole day, not a whole year, just for 1 minute. But that's not reality, The
social dynamics. I had a guy on the show yesterday. He's 20 years old. Really proud of him, because at 20 years old, if somebody would have said, like, you want to come on a, like, I'd be like, no, man, we talking about, like, what you gonna pay me? This guy's heart was so sincere. But I said, man, I'm telling you right now, I would have not succeeded. I know myself. I knew myself. Looking back, I didn't know myself at 20, but look, the 20-year-old me with a laptop at school, I would have been,
I would have been in my own world, doing my own thing.
Never paid attention.
Never paid attention. Never.
I was always in trouble from a disruptive perspective of writing notes and giggling with the chicks. And I would have probably been running a dating scheme.
And so you've been successful in that part.
Yeah. Like, I would have maybe came up with an app or something, but the teachers would have literally been like, this guy has got to go.
Yeah. I would have never focused on anything.
Never.
Anything they said.
So I told this kid, I said, man, I actually give you, anybody out there, and we get credit too, because it's hard to do it now, but at least it wasn't embedded in our DNA. Yeah. But anybody who, like, God bless your daughter, if she's able to feed herself and not want to kill someone or kill herself, that's like a huge accolade now. And be connected socially. Because what you can be, what you see, you're so susceptible to everything. And someone that can carry out, starting the show was the hardest thing for me. All my clients know, and you know this too, that I want you to be out on the site. I want to be your photos, your videos. And of course, if you're a huge institution and it's not just you, then fine. But we got to get humans that are involved in the business. It will separate you from all your competitors. I'm a big believer in that. So I'm getting a lot of my clients are sending me their videos, and every video after they send it to me, what do you think they say? I hate myself. I
hate how I look.
I hate how I look. I had one yesterday, and I'm never going to say names and stuff, but I had a really sweet lady send me her video, and she was like, can you edit this and edit that? And of course I'm going to do it. It's her baby. But I thought, when you look at it from the outside in, she's like gorgeous, and I don't know. It's just so weird because we're so hard on ourselves.
And
that chatter harder. In between the brain. Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's getting really hard.
Yeah. When I was 17, like Cindy Crawford and Christy Brinkley or whoever, like, you would see them in a magazine and you're like, oh, well, they're a model. So of course I'm not supposed to be that amazing.
Right.
But now everyone's that.
Everybody.
And it's hard. But I want to give credit to the millennials. I think they get a lot of flack from the older generations. I do think that they are an extremely creative generation, and they are handling pressures that we have no concept of what it would have been like to be in our formative years dealing with that. I think they entered the workforce in a very difficult time when they were competing against people that were older, my generation, and the baby boomers that had tons of experience, and they came into this workforce and they couldn't get jobs. They had to move home with their parents. And so they became very entrepreneurial and very internet based. And they've created all kinds of cool apps and neat things that I never would have thought of. And so, you know, I know they're on their phones all the time and they're always scrolling and looking and stuff, but they're also very creative. And they also have brought a lot of positives to our society. I think the whole sharing economy is bringing people closer together. The do what you love. So many millennials are traveling the world as they pursue their careers online because they can. And you could do your career from anywhere in the world. That's beautiful because you can meet new people, learn new cultures. So I think there's a lot to be said for what they've done, but man, it's got to be hard to be. I'm glad we didn't have cell phones. I'm old enough that I had a pager.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember that. I was at the cusp. I had a pager, but it's all about, I think it just requires more like restraint.
Yeah.
That's all, you know, and as long as you can use it for the better of mankind, like for instance, like my wife and I are planning going somewhere to a sporting event, and the sporting event in this day, back probably 5+ years ago, you didn't even exist. It was like you went to the sporting event, never went to the stadium. You hoped you didn't have a pole in front of you. Yeah. And you went.
Yeah.
Now I literally didn't even know this. You go online, which I'm sure unbelievable. And now there's a great story of a digital. Someone created it. Someone took the time.
Yep.
Now it's interesting because the resource is free, so they must be making their money off of affiliates,
advertising or whatnot.
But here I am thinking like, what a wonderful using digital for the better of mankind. But then there's that dark side.
There's a dark. I mean, like GoFundMe. What a phenomenal concept! Yeah. Like you can help people that you support their cause or just feel sad about the situation or whatever, but then there's people that take advantage.
Yes.
And that's just always going to exist. Right. And rather than get caught up in it because people get so upset by it, just don't be that person. Yeah. You know, and just do things right with a good heart. Yeah. And that's all you can really do. You're not going to, someone that's got a bad heart and going to do something like that, you're probably not going to have good chance of changing them. So I'd say take the energy and focus.
But leading by example, I was telling that to my buddy. I said, because he's 20 and frustrated too. Yeah. And it was kind of cute to hear him. He's very frustrated. When I was 20, I wanted everybody to be what I was shooting for. Yeah. Why are you not making your own business, bro? And I had to learn from the people that I considered mentors then to teach me that, hey man, not everyone wants to do what you're doing, man. Right. And one of the things that I've my biggest revelation in literally the last net 90 days is stay in my lane. Yep. Stay in my lane. That's the editor of my book. She constantly says, stay in your lane, because she'll see me start to try to do something that I think maybe people want me to do. And she's like, no, stay focused. It's easy to. It is. It's hard. And I'm still getting to know you, but what I'm extracting from you is that you're definitely, you're strong. Like I march to the beat of my own drummer. You're strong and you're no dummy, and you've some things I am. Yeah, but you have you've learned through your own trials. You know what I mean? Like you didn't pick up, I don't know, you found your flavor. Yeah. And that's one thing that I've told most of the guys that are younger and I play soccer with that will ask me some advice and stuff. And I say, I have no business advice. And I do make the mistake about, I did put in the email. I am personal because it's me. I'm just a little old guy. No, I'm personal. Just me and Tom are able to separate. Okay. That's what I was saying there. No, I told you, I was like, you hurt my feelings. All right. So those that don't know, we had a hiccup because we're learning. We're both learning. We've got a beautiful the business. I built you these websites, and the websites need to communicate with the booking system. And there's a million ways we could have done it. Yep. So we chose one. It's not really working. So we're in this hiccup stage. We're trying to find one of a remedy. I think we've got it. Yep. We're working on it. But in the midst of that, which once again, emails being black and white and can be annoying, red, wrong, and all that. And I'm a human, and you had emailed me, and I'm like, I love to put things to bed right away. Yep. And I did. I called you at 9, and you were eating, and you did, and I was like, man, I wish I could have just dealt with it now. But then the next day, and then I sent the email, and I always get scared because thank God you were personable. Yeah. Sometimes I've had literally probably now in 15 years, I've only had one scary story where I thought the lady was going to slit my throat because she was accusing me of stuff that was literally outlandish. Right. Ironically, she called me a year, not even 6 months ago. Right. And gave me the best apology ever and remembered me. Right. And she's like, do you remember me? I'm like, do I remember?
I've been having nightmares about you for the last
I
year.
didn't sleep.
Yes, I remember you.
I haven't eaten since. But like you said, though, the world came full circle. Like all those people that come maliciously and you just, because I was so scared. I was like, oh my God, I have nothing. So like if she would have came up with some kind of outlandish lawsuit, you owe me the world. I'm like, oh, well, here you go. I've been cooked. Point is, I got scared that what if you turned into that? I had no idea.
Yeah,
I didn't know. I was like, oh my
Yeah.
God, what if all of a sudden? So I wrote this email to you that was so corpo, even though I wrote it in a whim, but it was like so corpo for me because I'm not. But I put in there, I'm like, I'm very personable. I'm like, I apologized.
Yep.
And I said, like, I basically wanted to, as if that was my last day I was alive, that I had something of like, I've tried, like, because I'm always scared. And then the next morning, you had sent me a scary email. I honestly, I'm not even kidding you, Krista. I like skimmed it. I was like, it was so long and scary. And I was like, key notes where keywords were coming up. And I was like,
points 1, 2, 3, 4.
So I right away called you. Or didn't I? Did I say like, please, can I talk?
Yeah. Let's chat. And I'm a huge fan. And if you ever deal with anyone out there deals with controversy via text, email, pick up the phone and call someone, because you do not know how I come across in my emails is very
You're scary in a good way.
It is scary.
I want you always on my side.
It's strong, it's firm, and it can be intimidating.
This is please love me.
Yeah, I said I absolutely still do.
You're like, I love it. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, it's business. And to go into it thinking everything must be perfect and no one can ever make mistakes on either side, that's not reality. We're learning, we're evolving, we're both entrepreneurs.
Right.
So to hold someone to a candle, if you can't make a mistake, that I don't want that candle held to me. So I just can't hold that for someone else. And so, but I'll still tell you if I'm frustrated and I want you to tell me. And I felt like we did that and we worked past it.
It was amazing. Like I said, I skimmed your email and I said, I want to like figuratively hug you right now.
Yeah. I said to Tom, I was like, the podcast is going to be awkward now.
What if I was like, we need to talk about this? No, but I thought to myself, what? And I've told my wife, as I've evolved as a business, that was nothing. That was like just that was literally nothing. I haven't had a hiccup in so long. And I think it's because people appreciate me and they do sense my heart.
Yeah.
Because I hope, like a legitimate question would be, getting to know me as your consultant, as someone you've hired, I would hope you feel the value. You know?
I think even in our little email exchange there, I think both of us addressed pretty quickly in our responses, I'm not questioning your intentions here.
Right.
And that was never, we just had a difference of where we're at. And so I think you do a very good job of letting people know you are there for them. You are doing the best you can do for them. And you're not in the hopsicle industry or the painting industry. And so when you create websites, you have to learn industries too. And I don't create websites, so I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Right. And so you've got people coming together that don't understand each other's jobs perfectly. We do our best. I mean, we both have really tried to understand it. Yeah. But I think you do a great job of saying, look, I'm here for you. I'm going to do the best job for you and just communicate with me. Yeah. So I do think you've done a very good job of that.
I appreciate that.
And I know your heart's good.
Working with you has been, I don't get to work with that many people that have that are that much of a serial entrepreneurial. They'll say to me, like, we work with this one, we're going to have a million ideas. And then this time next year, they're just not around. But what you're working on, it's so exciting for me because if you haven't figured this out, which I'm sure you have, I loved it. I want to do this with you for the rest of my life. Yeah. Like I'm not turnkey kind of job guy. So we were able to like meet at this wonderful meeting ground of the financial and then the relationship. And I'm excited. I'm just glad that I know you.
Oh, thanks.
Because what you're working on is fantastic.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people. I mean, you were the first one to bring a bar bike to Daytona Beach, Florida.
Yeah.
Who could like that's to think that it's not in existence.
Yeah.
Is that crazy? And like here you are, you're the pioneer of that. And that's just going to be another stepping stone to probably something. I want to make
the whole town better. Yeah. So you got to have fun stuff for people.
But you're out there.
I am out there.
You are out, and I'm like watching your photos coming in. What you got, you're putting in the blood, sweat, and you're really doing it.
Yeah.
There's something so admirable about that. And that's probably one of the things I get met with the most are this scene of just that get rich quick thing,
Oh, it's so annoying. It's so annoying. That irritates the crap out of me because, again,
do you get that a lot? Do you get the sayings like "must be nice"
all the time?
Yeah.
My dad, I have to pull him off my Facebook at times because I'll get so many times if I post anything good that's happened. You're so lucky. Everything you touch turns to gold. And my dad, he's seen it all.
Yeah,
he knows how hard I work.
Want to go
he's
back
like,
to
yeah, she
2008?
sleeps 4 hours a night, and
Yeah.
she like. He's seen me have basically nervous breakdowns and pull over on the side of the road because I'm crying so hard. I'm afraid I'm going to harm my child in a car accident, not harm my child. That came out wrong, but you know what I'm saying? And so he'll get on there and he's like, she's worked her ass off. And he'll go crazy on people he's never met. And I'm like, Dad, come down. It's my friend. They just don't know, And so and a few of them will message me. They're like, tell your dad, I'm sorry. I'm like, no, it's fine. But yeah, you do get that. You do. If you look around, we're all guilty of it. I look at, again, so we talk about body image, and I have definitely issues with that. I think most women do. And I look at someone that's rock star in a bathing suit, and I think, must have been nice to not be born short-waisted, as if it's their fault that I have a shorter waist than them, or that I drink wine every night, or that maybe I don't watch what I eat every time I go to a Mexican restaurant, So, but there's that mentality of, oh, it must be easier. I work out all the time. I do. I always have. I'm never going to look like a swimsuit model. That's just the way it is. There's no reason to be rude about it or think must be nice. You got so lucky. We each get our own things. We each are given certain talents and gifts, and you embrace the ones you have, and the ones that you don't have, you do the best with.
Well, that's once again being just comfortable in your own skin, being at peace. Yeah. And I wasn't, right before I started the show, I was going to make it this like virtual way of dealing with it. So it was like very little on, I was just this little thing on the screen and you couldn't really see me that well. And I'm like, why am I going to show my house? Like, look how small my house. I have like a 900 square foot home. Like, I want to show that. And I wanted this to be this like cool Joe Rogan thing. Yeah. And then finally one day I was like, F it, going live. And now it's going like flag viral. Like, I know it's not, but for me, but it starts somewhere. Yeah.
Like, you're never going to be Joe Rogan if you don't start somewhere.
100%. And the craziest thing is I'm getting more and more people calling me and emailing me, all that I guess you consider fans. And they're like, how do I start my show? And I'm like, you see my set.
Well, no, I walked in. So I told you before, I want to start a podcast about women in investing. Yes. So I bought the microphones. I haven't set it up yet. Haven't had the time. Haven't made it a priority. I walked in and I'm like, dang, this is really nice what you have set up
here.
But
it's simple.
It is simple.
People are like, I'm literally laptop, the little light. Oh, it's all inexpensive too. Yeah. Dude, this light was $50-$60 on Amazon, and it came with an addition. The light bulb's huge in there. I hope it lasts. And then these guys were $12 a piece. These were $50 a piece. And then that little Shigamarugu guy, I don't know, the podium thing, and then bada bing. Yeah. Now, and I know I'm starting to get a lot of, I don't even want to call them haters because they're fans, but they're like, you got to get a better camera. You got to get better mics. And I will.
You will when you get there.
The thing is that like even today, I told my wife, I was like, I'm getting really sick and tired of setting this up every time now. Just to show you, like the grass is always right. Like at first I was like, I'm so excited. Now I'm like, I just wish I could leave it. Yeah. Because this is my dinner table. So there's always the next goal. Yep. There's always, but to be comfortable, I look at myself sometimes on some of the shows. I'm like, that's stupid. I should have never wore that shirt. Yeah. Like look like a heifer on that one. Yeah. And you it's okay to analyze and want to grow and change. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to look better, feel better. I get it. But at the end of the day, you got to get out there. Yeah. Oh. And I admire you for that. And I hope, which it's going to happen. You watch. I get more and more women there saying, you got to get more working moms on there because it's just a big scene. It's a growing scene.
It's a growing scene.
And you guys are definitely going through some. See, I never thought about it in the perspective of like being in the grocery line and just having that. I just made that.
Yeah. Well, and keep in mind too, where I lived also played a significant part in it. I lived in a rural part of outside Atlanta. And so there is still that Southern mentality in some capacities there. Right. It's not with everyone, but the woman stays at home and cooks and cleans, and the guy goes to work. And in your metropolitan cities, I feel like there's less of that. I am calling this area metropolitan. That is correct. But there is less of that expectation. And most of the women I've met here are actively chasing whatever dream they have. And again, whatever that dream is totally fine. But for a long time, I was in a place that I didn't really belong and I didn't really fit in. And so I felt that. And now I'm somewhere that
You're glowing now.
My friend the other day, she said, you've had some really nice pictures on Facebook. And I normally am not very photogenic.
Did I pick a good one today?
I don't
What
know.
did you
I didn't see it. I was driving in traffic with the old people from Canada. So thank God I wasn't on I-4.
You do have some good ones.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, and I told her, I said, it's because I'm happy. I'm radiating because I live somewhere that I love. I do things that I enjoy. I'm surrounded by people that I really admire and enjoy being around. And so how would I not look happy?
Right.
You know? So, but it took a long time to get there. There was many days that you're like probably looking at my picture thinking, is she about to jump off a bridge? You know? So,
I don't think I'm gonna work with this lady.
yeah.
No, and then one of the things the lady said is in the book, I think it's like I said, Sarah King, You Do You. It says, she like literally says verbatim, F the whole fake it till you make it syndrome.
No, don't. That's gone.
And I have always agreed.
Yeah.
When I was younger, it was cool to say.
Yeah.
And I did. I was like suit and tie. And I had a Chevy S10 that was a no air condition. I parked it like a mile away at my meetings.
Yeah.
So like I'd get out and I'm like, no one's there. And I go to the car and like, cause I didn't want people to see how real I guess I was.
Yeah.
And now, do you know, I don't know what is really my theory of why I'm succeeding is because I stopped hoping and I started just believing in myself and the guy upstairs and the guy that's my belief.
Yep.
And I started literally knowing that no matter what I do, I realize that people and things will not be my source. I'll figure it out.
And people that like the fake you, they don't have a chance to know the real you.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. When I was a stockbroker, it was fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
And because you can't really, I get it. You can't walk into an office to try to get a new client. And when they say, so how many customers do you have? 0. I've actually never done this before, but will you give me your 401k plan?
Right.
So I get some of that, but also is that really fair to the client?
No.
You know?
I had a meeting. Well, I hate calling them meetings. It wasn't a client. It was someone who just asked me for my advice and we sat down to lunch and, he was just basically saying like, what could I do? I mean, he's a young kid, 20 some odd years old. And that's not young because they don't have it. They're just, I look at them and I go, you have no idea what you're about to experience. It's all great. But I look back and I think, man, you have to go through all these things. You have to go, you have to have your 4 a.m. work nights and forget that you have to do your own accounting. You're going to have to you're going to have to give money back to somebody one day who's grumpy pants. You have to go through those things because what you do with a little, you're going to do with a lot.
Yep.
And just like I said, what Biggie said, more money, more problems. So now I've learned, and I tell some of my clients this because, my other side of business is like getting sites to rank from keywords that have volume. And you know how many times people are like, I want to rank for this. And like, I show them analytically that keyword is searched for, like, let's say 1,500 times a month. What business, unless you're selling gum, are you going to be able to service 1,500?
Right. Right.
What? Even an iPhone.
Right.
You're probably going to be on a 2-week wait to be able to produce that many sales at that very moment. Right. Point is, keep it simple.
Yeah.
And I'm no business major and understand, but I've noticed if you can just keep how many people, it's probably going to happen with you. It is going to happen with you. We're probably going to work together forever. Yeah. And all the businesses that you're very similar to a client that I got one of my very, very first clients like 15 years ago. I was very candid. I had my portfolio was like me and my own personal sites.
Right.
He took a chance on me, and here we are 15 plus years later. This guy, like you, has kind of like the Midas touch. He has his woes. Yep. But he's on his like umpteenth invention, and I'm always the guy who gets the call. And it's amazing. But that happened out of we had a lot of Krista emails. Yeah. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears. We're able to, he valued me and I valued him.
Well, and again, there's gonna be in every relationship, parent, child, husband, wife, friends, business, there's going to be problems. And if it's going to be a strong relationship, part of that is learning to work through them. Right. It's the only way. Otherwise, it's not gonna be a relationship at all.
Well, and what we'll do is I'm going to be putting you got so many thingies. We've got the painting, we've got the e-cycles, we've got hop cycles, we've got the pallet bar. Mm-hmm. You want to put the book in too? Yeah. What's the title of the book?
It's called The Boss Lady Investor. You don't need a dick to understand money.
I love it. I don't think you gave me the whole title the first time I talked to you.
Well, I was at first, I was a little shy to say the whole title. Mm-hmm. So I would just tell people it's called The Boss Lady Investor. Yeah,
because you didn't use the dick in it.
I didn't use the dick part. It. And finally, my mother-in-law, who I always think is very prim and proper, I told her, I said, Sean, I need to tell you what the actual title of the book is. And I told her and she started laughing. She said, I love it. Why don't you tell people that? And I said, because I feel like older people will get offended by it. And she said, well, then they're not your clients. So it doesn't matter. And she said, that's your book, your title. And so from there on, she actually, her and all her friends, they were all 65 to 75 years old, rented the Hopsicle. And we did a tour of Daytona a few weeks ago, which was great. They said they hadn't been to Daytona in 20 years,
Wow.
that they'll bring their grandkids back down because they got to see all the new stuff we have. But at the end, she said, tell everyone the name of your book. And I said, oh, The Boss Lady Investor. And she said, the real name. And I told them, and they were all like, that's amazing. They loved it because it's catchy, it's fun, and it is what I'm trying to say. It's not just be a boss lady, because that's so overdone. But like you don't need a man, you don't need a dick, just take the time to learn about money, because it is going to be a part of your life, whether you have a lot or a little or in between. It is there to stay for the entire duration of your life. And if you don't understand it, you're going to struggle with it. So that's my point to the book.
I freaking love it.
Yeah.
Well, I think we did good.
I think we did too. This was fun.
Really did good.
Yeah.
But
This is my first podcast ever.
Really?
Yeah.
Anything I can do to help you grow, and I'll help. I have a lot of people ask me, but like I said, if it's going to be, is your show going to be kind of the same premise? Maybe like it's at the home, or are you going to have a little studio? Like,
it'll be in my house. It'll be in my house.
Keep it simple then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe you don't have to set yours up every time either. You're lucky. That would be my word of advice.
Yeah.
Because it's going to work.
Yeah.
It's going to be so much fun.
Yeah, I'll put it in my office. And
because like the setting up thing.
Yeah, that's
and I feel bad because I got to kick my wife out every time. She's like, "Oh my god."
Yeah, but I'll have to kick my husband and dogs out if they're there, so that's fine. That's part of the game. When he's home working, I'm like, "You're in my office."
You're in my zone.
Yeah.
I used to let the dog. People that love the dogs. I used to let the dogs out, and people would love. Like, I think they just loved even how much more real.
Yeah.
Because those that are watching the show know, like, this is literally my living room.
Yeah.
But I guess it does look cool if it's just in the square and it looks like it's like a set, but this is just my living room. But when the dogs would come in, they were like, but my wife will josh with me now. She's like, you left the pillow on the thing, because I guess there was a dog bonus. So we try to tidy up.
Right.
But as I'm getting more and more people, you can't take the risk with the dog. And
someone might, you don't want to offend people, but you can still be real.
Yeah. I think that's and that's why yours will be successful, is that it's the only, I had a guy tell me the other day at a little, at his a business owner in Flagler. And he said, dude, your show is so like obnoxiously real, because it's so corny, like in a good, you know what I mean? Like there's no pizzazz. The quality of the video on Facebook's like pixelated. Well,
I'm impressed. So I think you're doing.
This was your first one? I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, once again, Krista, thank you so much. I'll put all the links. We can keep I could tell people too, you're always welcome. Yeah. So we can keep my audience up to date.
If I have fresh, fun stuff to share with people, happy to do it. If I'm living boring life somewhere, I'll let you know that too. But
I don't think boring is in your.
I don't think so.
It's in your bio. Well, thanks for coming, Krista.
Thank you very much. This is awesome.
Yeah. So I think we lost the Facebook one, but